But, Councillor, I too am happy to speak on this important matter this evening, very important matter for connectivity really with our rest of the world. And I want to wish the Minister well her brief and thank her and her senior minister who's doing a Zoom meeting tomorrow. I had requested a Zoom meeting for issues in Tipperary town, and that's taking place tomorrow with Minister Ryan, which we appreciate. Minister, look, the aviation industry is very important. And look, people can criticise Ryanair or whatever and his style, the chief executive, but look, they did transform the industry and they brought competition into it. People got away to holidays in places that they'd never even dreamed about because without competition. It just goes to show we need competition. Competition is the spice of life, Councillor. And look, the Aer Lingus, I want to salute them too. They have a proud record of promoting Ireland, and I've travelled a few times with not that many. I was a fear of flying for years, but since I got the skies, I didn't get too bad. It grew on me. So they have been wonderful promoters, and all the green charmucks and the badges and the staff and the hostesses and the pilots. And the pilots especially, the efforts that they go to get trained and the expense. And many of them now have been just abandoned in recent times. And I have numerous pilots in Tipperary contacting me and beyond who, you know, are just in a limbo. As Deputy Collins alluded to first, at the earlier part of the pandemic, Aer Lingus for some reason was kicking and screaming and wouldn't allow the sign-on days and off days like normal people do in normal businesses all the times, in different seasonal jobs and otherwise. And they should have been done that. So I don't know. I too have been, I suppose, privileged to be at the Taoiseach's briefings when we used to have them pretty regularly, and the NEFIT and the rest of them. And I've been asking from the very first meeting, like a bad record, why aren't we doing something with our airports as regards testing? And they're stuck and welded to this PCR test. And I have issues with the PCR test, and many scientists who know a lot more than me about it, and medical people, scientists especially, and in the fact that it's been run at too many revolutions in the test in this country. And the WHO, I saw someone recently warned people to tone down the revolution cycle of the test. So there are issues. Why the antigen test was refused and wasn't allowed at any time and won't be counted as. I think they're talking about it now at this late stage, nearly a year into the whole situation. So we must have the antigen testing as well. Then there's an issue now of many patriots of our own, expatriates of our own, and diaspora that are abroad. Many are away for business and they can't come home. So it's easy to look for a clamour to close the airports completely, but essential travel will always have to take place. Business, health, medical, people that want to come in and out, even to repair medical equipment in Ireland, but that's only a small amount. But there are two, I was onto the department recently, and a constituent was onto me to turn to the department as well. There are two ways, you know, if a person is safe and can't get or transmit COVID to travel. One is if we're having a negative COVID test within 3 days, or if we're the second one is a recent history of COVID and recovery from COVID certified by a medical doctor. Now we have to look at the latter, because with the numbers that have got COVID and the numbers that, you know, that have been sick and have recovered is huge, because we never hear that in RT or in any of the media. And thankfully, many people recover and recover well. So if they have a letter from the doctor, so though the science is not settled on the length of immunity after COVID, after having it and recovering, it is accepted that 90 days is a minimum safe period to expect immunity to last. It may be years, but we don't know yet. For this reason, the second criteria, certified recovery from COVID, is obviously the most reliable, and that should be examined and looked at. The USA actually lists that criteria this way, and they say it, effective from January 26th, all airline passengers to the United States ages 2 years and greater or older must provide a negative COVID-19 viral test taken within 3 calendar days of travel. Alternatively, this is the US law, travellers to the US may provide documentation from a licensed healthcare provider of having recovered from COVID-19 in the 90 days preceding travel. And that person, to me, would be a GP or a doctor. So why can't we do it? Why do we have to be dancing on a pin here and trying to do? This is an area we won't be wasting money on tests, and the cost of them, where the PCR test costs somewhere between €190 they were costing. They might be a little cheaper now. It's hard to find out. So if you have recovered, and if you have a certificate and that you're safe, you should be able to travel. People who have had COVID, recovered and are immune, may still test positive results on a COVID test, but in their case it has become an additional sign of immunity safety, not a warning sign, as people who initially contact COVID and are in an infectious cycle from the very start, so these people have recovered. Ireland only recognises one criteria for entrance into the country. That is a negative COVID test within 3 days of arrival. This means that people who have had COVID and are immune and who can legally travel and have legitimate and essential reasons to do so cannot come home. That's what I referred to at the start. They might be out and working in Dubai, God knows where. We have engineers all over the world. We have some of the brightest and best people all over the world in different, wide range of industries and commerce. And that's the reason they should be allowed to come home. It's totally very hard on those people coming into nearly 12 months of it now if they can't get home. As I said, the people in the Department of Affairs say it's a big problem, and that people who are now immune to COVID and are stranded all over the world by the shortfall in the Irish regulations. And we must look at that, Minister, because we should have, if it's good for the Americans and they're pretty strict, it should be good enough for us. This also contradicts the HSE advice, our policy here in aviation, which after a positive test tells you the amount of days to isolate and what days you can move freely again. The Cabinet seems to be wanting to be seen to be very strict, but this anomaly and shortfall in the provisions trying to for people trying to come home that they may see just as anti-science. It's not anti-science, and it's not anti-vax or anything else. Can you ask the question, as I said, can I ask the question to you, Minister, why the Irish travel restrictions do not recognise the status of citizens who have had COVID, recovered, and have proof of same and have immunity for 90 days. Now, the proof of same is a medical certification. When will our government stop, as I said, penalising those who have had COVID, recovered, and allow them to come home? Because if we're going to live with COVID, which we're told we have to, we're going to have to support the people that recovered from it, and they are many, and they need to be able to have that test to come home. So we need to think outside the box. And I know we're talking about aviation and the connectivity here, Controller, but NEFIT must examine this and must be, I've said all the time, NEFIT needs to be broadened and expanded and bring in new people from different areas. The airlines to us are so important. Our connectivity, Controller, is just so important. And I salute a group of people from Ireland and all over the world who have gone off and bought an airline now. They're calling it Freedom Airline. And I salute them. And I think the Irish government should be looking now, and I'm not trying to pick on people when they're down or picking people who are weak in other countries. Airlines are being sold for a pittance, which is a pity. But we must preserve our airlines. We must preserve our connectivity. And another competitor in Ireland wouldn't do one bit of harm. Dublin Airport is just bonkers every time, not at the moment of the last 9 months, but it's just investment in Dublin Airport. And I spoke at length with the bill when Minister Ross was putting it through. And at the diminution and the downgrading of Shannon, Cork, Port Lorga in Waterford, and indeed Galway, and indeed Knock. So we have plenty of airports. We need more planes and we need more pilots. And we have plenty of young, ambitious people who would like to become pilots. So I'd be saying now, I'm not going to list out the figures. I've read them all over the world. Governments have pumped massive money, billions, in some cases, into airlines. And we won't give them a pig in a wine. Céim Fá and Tara. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to get rid of them like we get rid of so many other businesses in Ireland and then hire it all in and import our airports and everything else? We have the proud flag of Aer Lingus for decades now, many decades. And we have Ryanair, the competitor as well. And we need to support and stimulate. And we need a third as far as I'm concerned. And we need to open up. When the late Charlie Haughey and the late Monsignor Horn wanted to develop now, what did the Kenny say? A fog in a bog or something. The Fine Gael said, the Taoiseach at the time said, it's there, a fine international airport, under capacity. Cork is under capacity. Shannon is under capacity. And indeed, some airlines pulled out of Cork and Shannon. Their names won't come to me readily now, but it is time to look around and see what's there, because money was never as cheap to borrow. In actual fact, it can be borrowed nearly at 0% and invest, because we need our connectivity. Our country is too small, and we see the impacts now of Brexit. We need to be able to work all over the world, and we are working all over the world, and in many, many good jobs and good industries, and helping other economies. Our NGOs travel all over the world. Our sisters and priests went all over the world as missionaries, and still are. And it's tremendous work that are recognised all over the world. We might want to recognise them at home, but they're recognised all over the world, and rightly so. So we need to think outside the box here, Minister. We need to look at supporting the airlines, and the pilots at this point in time must be supported, because they have families. They have a tough job away when they're flying and they're away, and they must be, have so much rest when they come back. So they have a difficult time for families, but they must be supported now. And the airlines must be supported, and we're getting pleas every day. You must be flooded with them for support. So why are we so out of kilter that we won't support our airlines? Almost every country in the world is supporting them. We saw, as I said, some previous speakers said the British government supported Ryanair, because they know how badly they need the connectivity, and we need it. So we've lost railway lines. We've lost so much in rural Ireland. And when this is something we have that we need to protect and enhance, and we're all in this together, we're supposed to be, so we must support them, as I said, and we must make sure that they will be there, fit for purpose, when we have to have hope. We have Law fell a breed 2 days ago, and we must have hope, and it's first day of spring, or second day of spring, and we must look forward. This won't be with us always, but we must examine the antigen testing. We must look at that model of the people who have recovered from COVID and have a certification to say that, let them come home in the first instance, but also let them travel afterwards, because people who have COVID and recovered must be allowed to live. Or everyone else is cocooning and frightened to go here or go there or do anything, but the people that have got through must be allowed back into the economy. Otherwise, our economy won't last. We'll be 12 months, I said now, in a couple of weeks' time, 12 months in this scenario. And I said we must look around and to see if there's airlines out there, or see if we have any enterprising entrepreneurs that would be able to buy them and have them ready, because they're there and they're well equipped, the best of planes. The orders for Concords, for all the planes with Boeings and all were massive. The books were full. Everything is stopped now, but the ones that are there and that are sitting in airports and sitting in hangars all over the place must be, if they're available to be bought cheaply, should be bought cheaply. So I would also ask you, Minister, please, in connectivity, Waterford Airport needs upgrading, and it badly needs upgrading, and we need support for it. Shannon, I'm on the periphery of we have a group there. I know Deputy Cathal Crowe is involved, Deputy Michael McNamara, and Joe Carey, and we have many meetings. Shannon is facing real problems, real problems. So we must discourage the discourage all the traffic from Dublin down to the country airports. I'm not anti-Dublin, but Dublin is choked. Terminal 2 is full. Now there's plans for massive extensions there again. And we do know the residents, and some of them did contact me during the last debate with Minister Ross about the noise. And it's not nice. And I heard Deputy Duckton saying you can close the windows and close, you have double glazed or triple glazed. Of course you can. But you're not going to stay in a summer's night or summer's day with the windows closed. And if you want to be out in your back garden, or if you want to be digging in your backyard, if you have a bit to set a few, or fill a few window boxes, Eamon Ryan says, south-facing ones, and grow some, I don't know what he's going, lettuces in them, but I mean, he needs to get out the lettuce and get serious about developing our economy, developing our airlines more so, but above all, supporting our pilots. And Mullinay Chukichi encourage more young people to go into a pilot training. Deputy Duckton said that he took up flying one time. I didn't know he did now, but I knew he often drove the tractor, all right, but I never thought he went to the air. But if he did, but nonetheless, I didn't. I wouldn't know. I would be afraid to. But young people, the world is their oyster, and it should be. And when this is over, it has to remain to be their oyster. And we must have schools, the training schools that are ready and fit and must be invested in. But above all, Minister, you must answer, when you're answering us here, why you're not putting funding into aviation. It's going into private hospitals. It's going into a certain beef mogul that owns the private hospitals, City West, God knows where. It's exceptional in times, but we can't cut off our connectivity with the rest of the world. We have the teacher wanting to go to America, and yet, as I said, our diaspora that are abroad, that had COVID and recovered, our people living here that are working abroad can't come home. So fair play is fine play with me. And the reason to go to America is to encourage the thousands of tourists to come in here. And President Biden is telling us now that he's mad about Mayo and Louth and he's going to come here. They will come here. But they can't come if we have the proper infrastructure in our airports, if we have the proper infrastructure in our aircraft. But above all, if we haven't the human resource of the pilots and all the backup staff and the technicians and everybody else and the hostesses. So it's a big industry. It needs huge support. It must get it because it can't wait much longer, and we don't want it to be diminished and not be there when we're ready to take it up again. Good,